Hello APMers, this is Lindsay Witter, your host of Best Practices. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we brought you our last Best Practices update. This week we hope to make it up to you by bringing you two great pieces of information. We have Leslie Haskell, Director of Underwriting, back with us to go through how to submit your prior to doc conditions to American Pacific Mortgage. We also have Colleen Ross Kelly, Compliance Supervisor, to give you an overview of our compliance checks and rate audits and what you can do to pass your compliance audits quickly. Take it away, guys.
Thanks, Lindsay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us again today. Today we will be continuing our discussion on submitting conditions to American Pacific Mortgage. The first thing you will want to do is obtain all your prior to doc conditions. I want to take a moment and give you a tip with our APMC turn times and how we keep them down. This is not the time for piecemeal. In order for us to expedite our turn times, the best advice we can give you is to send all your conditions in at once. Once all prior to doc conditions are in, you may be asking yourself, where do I send them so they will get in the right person's hand, in the right team's hand? The good news is we have a new, more efficient way of sending your conditions to your underwriting team. The first step is to scan your documents into a PDF format. You will then upload your conditions into the DocVelocity file and label them conditions-UW, conditions-underwriting. Once the conditions are uploaded, the underwriting team will organize your conditions after they are reviewed. In addition to uploading the conditions, the processor will also need to send an email to the conditions email box, conditions@apmortgage.com. For the Northwest Pacific branches, you would send them to northwestconditions@apmortgage.com. This email will alert the fulfillment centers that conditions have been uploaded to DocVelocity and should be placed in line for review. Once the conditions are received, they are immediately sent to your assigned underwriting team for review. Once reviewed and accepted, the underwriter will send an updated approval with all conditions signed off. Then, a junior underwriter will do a last-minute compliance check. An example of that would be, on a conventional loan, we'll pull soft credit looking for any additional debts. After this is complete, the junior underwriter will request a rate lock and compliance audit, and these are done simultaneously. Once that is completed, they will issue a clear to close. Your file is now heading to docs. It's probably a good time to discuss what happens when conditions do not satisfy the guidelines. In these instances, we may need to ask for more conditions, and in these cases, an updated conditions approval will be sent to the originator and processors, and we'll send that via email. With every loan that comes to us, we want to assure you that we want the loan to fund as much as you do, and there are 3 tips to submitting files that we want to emphasize. They are simple and old school, but there is a reason they have been around forever, because they work. First is cover letters. It's a great habit to provide a cover letter or letter of explanation for conditions you're submitting. And go with your gut. If you even have a hint that something might need an explanation, it most likely does, so send them in. Number 2, all at once is the way to go. When you're forwarding conditions to us, please remember to send them in all at once and try not to piecemeal. And the third tip, you have a virtual concierge. Remember, you have a virtual concierge on our web portal. The information on each and every one of your loan files is submitted and tracked within the web portal, and it's real time. Before I turn it over to Colleen, I wanted to thank you for your time, giving us the opportunity to serve you and your clients today. Take care. We're looking forward to your next loan. Colleen, take it away.
Thanks, Leslie. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. So let's continue to our second topic of the day, compliance checks. Specifically, we would like to address when they happen, what happens, and probably most importantly to you, how to pass that compliance check so that your loan can go to docs as soon as possible. Leslie has already shared with you that your underwriting team lets us know when the file is ready for a compliance check. Now we'd like to share with you what happens when the request is received in the compliance department. We currently have 3 very knowledgeable compliance team members that handle your audits. The first order of business for them is to perform the compliance audit on each file. So what does that mean exactly? It means that they go through every file and double check all the disclosures in the file, making sure that they are in compliance and completed correctly. Their main focus is on the GFEs and TILs in the file. It is very important that you double check your work on these documents and make sure that all the numbers, dates, and check boxes are marked and completed correctly. Incorrect GFEs and TILs are the #1 reason that a file does not pass audit first try. Make sure that the loan amount and rate on your last GFE matches the final approval that your underwriter gave you. If not, send in those redisclosures. Another common problem is redisclosing the TIL when you redisclose your GFE. Remember that ever since last January, the GFE and TIL are completely separate disclosures, and you do not need to redisclose them at the same time. Be extremely careful with this one, because if you redisclose that TIL when you did not need to, it may cause a delay in your borrowers being able to sign their documents. We really want you to encourage you to pick up the phone and call us. Compliance may sound boring, but we're not. In all seriousness, we are here to serve you and answer questions that you have. We've had some really great questions come in, and it serves you and your client best by asking these questions before you give that GFE and TIL to your borrower. Fourth, we also encourage you to not to disclose 0-point loans. The big takeaway here is that you can never increase block 1, which means the borrower cannot buy down their rate. It is much safer to disclose a 1% origination and a credit to the borrower for those fees on your worksheet. The next important item is to remember that the GFE is not an estimate anymore. We cannot say it enough. Print your disclosures and look at them. Make sure they are correct before you give them to your borrower. If anything doesn't look right, that's the time to pick up the phone and call us. Lastly, that 10% tolerance. There is a 10% tolerance on the GFE, but it only applies when docs are drawn and they calculate your cost to cure. It does not allow you to redisclose your GFE with higher fees. Please know if there is anything wrong with the file, that does not send your file into a holding pattern. We will contact either the loan officer or the processor right away to let you know what is wrong and how to resolve the issue. Once the file is error-free, it goes right back to the underwriter for a clear to close and on to docs. We wanted to share these tips with you to help you pass your compliant audit as quickly as possible. With that said, we have one more topic we'd like to cover in a few minutes that we have remaining: rate audits. A couple things we wanted to make you aware of. Number 1, when do they happen? Again, they happen at the same time as the compliance audits. So what happens? It's pretty simple, actually. Our team checks that the rate is correct and that nothing has changed with the loan since the time of the lock. If there is something different, the originator and/or processor will be contacted by someone at the lock desk. Basically, the rate audit is another way for American Pacific to protect you and your pricing.
Thank you, Leslie and Colleen. That was important and pertinent information. Please remember to call compliance if you have any compliance-related questions. Also, I would encourage you to check out the Bridge for our recorded GFE trainings if you do need any refreshers. The next episode we'll be bringing you guys is Best Practices for Docs and Funding, so stay tuned.